my fellow travelers. So good to see you again. I, again, am having problems with this format, so please forgive any interruption and hang in there with me. I'm going to get used to it, I promise. I just have been trying to figure this out and get it going. But I wanted to talk to you today. I'm excited to be here. We're going to talk about how dating in this part of our life is different and kind of give you some ideas of what you could do to avoid those awkward situations. And so, thank you for joining me on today's coffee chat. I hope you've got your mug in hand because today we are diving into something every woman over 40 who travels and dates needs in her carry on, the travel buddy agreement. Yes, I said agreement because if lawyers can have contracts, then so can we. So, what's your go-to travel beverage? Do you get coffee, tea, wine, champagne? What is it that you get as soon as you step on board? Uh, Go ahead and put that in the comments. If you jump in, I hope to see you. Please, I'm again still learning the format, but I really would like to have some interaction and be able to chat with you today. So, whatever your beverage of choice is, we'll get started. So, going back to why I created this agreement, and part of it has to do with my trip that I just returned from, but these types of things have spanned back quite some time, and I told you the story of Nathan, and I thought maybe I'd bring it here just so if there's anybody that's listening in, they if you can relate to it, then perhaps you will have some tips on how to avoid it as well. Or you might pick up the travel buddy agreement and decide to use it for yourself. So, Nathan and I met at a club. It was really great. He was very nice. But as soon as I started spending time with him, he was trying to get serious, and I wasn't prepared for any type of relationship at that point. And I did make it a point to tell him that I'm not prepared for a relationship. I have just gotten out of something, and he said that that was fine, but he still pursued. And I will say it was nice to receive flowers and other things, but Nathan lived 2 hours away, so I felt pretty good about the fact that we could only see each other every other weekend, and perhaps not even then. He was raising his his daughter with his ex-wife, and she had two other children that he was also helping to raise. And uh, my children were almost grown and out of the house, and so him having a 4 year old was a little bit daunting for me. And yet I really hadn't had to spend much time. Again, she lived in this other city a couple hours away, and I should have broken it off. That is on me. Again, I can only be responsible for my actions, feelings, and thoughts. I can't change what somebody else does, but I needed to be a little bit more upfront and walk away from the situation earlier. However, I didn't. And I even wanted to have my boys spend a little bit of time with him to see if we had any chance of moving forward. And so I went out and stayed at a resort near where he lives so that we could spend some time over my birthday weekend. But I'd really gone there to have kind of a break with my boys who are very self sufficient. They could feed themselves. I brought enough food for them and the types of things that they ate. We didn't really drink soda or anything else. And I wasn't planning on doing a lot of cooking because I had pre-prepared the things that they would eat, and they were going to be basically playing on their game machines all weekend, and they were very excited about that. So we were going to have kind of a little spa time where I could do that, and I could get some work done. I could relax and recuperate, and then I could see Nathan, when he wasn't working, and we could go out to dinner and make it easier for him. However, he wasn't supposed to have his children that weekend, but he ended up having them. And so on Saturday, which was my birthday, he said, "Well, can I drop my kids off? Can you watch them for a little while I have a couple of appointments, and then I'll be back and we can go out to dinner?" I said, "Okay." I mean, it's only a couple hours, right? And he said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, it'll be a couple hours." So he drops them off at 9 a.m. And I had some muffins and some fruit, and the kids ate that okay, but they weren't really excited about it. But I thought, it's no problem because he'll be back before lunch and he'll take them to lunch. And yet there was nothing from him. He wasn't calling, and the types of appointments that he has, he can't answer his phone while he's working. So I just waited and kept waiting, and at about 12:30 I thought, I need to feed them because they were getting very hungry and very restless, and the space that we were in, that the hotel room, wasn't really big enough to keep hanging out in. So thankfully there was a restaurant on the resort, and I was able to take all of the kids in my van, just barely fit, and we packed up and we went. We got lunch, and they I let them kind of choose whatever they wanted because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know if they had any dietary restrictions or requirements. Again, I wasn't planning on babysitting. I really don't do kids. Any of y'all know me know that I don't do kids. So then after that, we went back to the house, and I tried to do some craft projects with them. That didn't seem to work out very well. I had them help me design t-shirts, and it just was very, very long few hours until 5 o'clock. He just showed up and said, "Okay, well, I'm getting them, and I guess we'll go to dinner, in an hour or so." I said, "You know what? I'm really not feeling it. I'm very tired. Let's just go out tomorrow." And so at that point, I knew that this just wasn't going to be for me, that I needed to break it off. And so the next night, I did tell him that this wasn't going to be the way that it was, that I don't date people who have children that are younger than mine. And that has been a very good rule going into any kind of dating relationship, because I've raised my kids, and I am not prepared to raise somebody else's children. And further, I don't want them just assuming that that's okay for them to have me watch their children. And so what that gave me was a little mini lesson in not breaking my rules for a man, especially when it comes to compatibility in travel or kids. So, have you ever agreed to something on a date or a trip you knew went against your rules, but you did it anyway, and then you instantly regretted it? If so, let me know. Let me know that I'm not the only one that has done something silly like this, and get into a situation kind of over your head. Because we've all been there. We get to this point in life, and things have changed. And it's not the same dating world that it was when we were in our 20s. That we don't want to grow old alone, but at the same time, it's important to realize that we don't want to fall into the same traps and mistakes that we'd had before, and we want to start on solid ground. And if you have a rule, it needs you likely have a reason that you have that rule, and you formed it based on your knowledge of yourself, and other people don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs of what's going into that. If if you decide that that rule doesn't apply anymore, that's one thing, but just to break it, I caution you um, to not allow it to diminish who you are. Don't settle for something that is not going to make you happy in the long run, because if you're settling early on in the relationship, then there's nowhere to go later on when that annoying habit just blows up and becomes something that you can't live with. You don't want to be stuck in those same perpetual scenarios. So, why dating and travel over 40 is different. It's it just seems that what we're looking for again is that peace and the depth and connection. And I can't speak for men. My research tells me that men often are looking for validation and some type of companionship without any complication. And so those two things don't always connect back, because when you are traveling together, it's magnified. It you are you end up spending more of your time together, and so then you really see whether those scenarios will work out for that union. It's one of the reasons why I think it might be good to go on trips early in a relationship to really see if you have compatible styles, especially if you are a traveler like we all are. If travel is one of the things that drives your soul and ignites you, then you need to make sure that the person that you're with will complement that type of lifestyle. And when you're in your 20s, you'll overlook those red flags with a smile. But now you need to make sure that those red flags are noted, and observe them, see it, say it, and sort it, as the English would say. So you see that red flag, you say, "Hey, this is a deal breaker for me," and then you need to be willing to walk away. So, what is your biggest deal breaker when you're traveling? Anybody out there? Is it a partner um, that snores? Is it someone that's bad at planning? Is it someone that does the, well, let's just split the bill, or vice versa, absolutely won't let you pay for anything, and or buy the thing that it is that you had been planning to buy, someone who tries to control what you're doing. Have you run into any of those deal breakers while you've been traveling? Okay, great. So let's go through the travel buddy agreement. And again, the reason why I came up with this was because you get to this point when you are on a trip with somebody, and if you haven't kind of set the ground rules early on, neither party really knows what to expect. And what happens is that you you don't necessarily come from the same perspective. If you talk about it, you come up with this travel buddy agreement, and you bring it into your discussion with a little bit of humor. I could have done this on the first night. We were having beers, and I could have said, hey, look, this is something really funny, but I know that you've got all these things going on, and I've got some plans of what I want to do on this trip, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page. And I should have just dove in there and been that person so that we could talk about what is the purpose of the trip. Is it, are we here for romance? Are we just here for an adventure? Is this something that we're just being friends, or is there a romantic element? And that goes on to the next step in that, in the contracted or agreement. It's not a contract, but the relationship intent. Is it just a vacation fling energy, or are we auditioning for forever? Are you looking for that place where you're going to make something long term, or is this just a vacation fling? Because it's okay to do that, and be prepared for that, and have that shipboard romance, and know that that's the end all be all. But keep your heart aware of the limitations, and whether you can actually do that and walk away with no um, connection post ship time. And it might be good to spell out what kind of physical intimacy are we talking about. Are we, having no sleepovers? Are there separate beds? Or, it's good to know up front what the plan is going to be, and the communication rules. If I text you, are you going to text me back? Do I have to let you know where I'm going to be? That was one of the interesting things on my last trip, because I didn't have a key to the flat where I was staying, and I ran into a point where I had to wait 45 minutes only to find out that he was already back in the flat the whole time. And it was a miscommunication, because I asked him if I could meet him back there while I was standing outside. I didn't ask him if he was already back there, because I figured that when he got back there, he would have told me. But he didn't. So it was a miscommunication, but had we talked about what the communication rules were, perhaps we could have avoided that. And then an exit clause, a way to say, hey, this isn't working for me, can we just be friends? And that way, how to bow out and do it gracefully. No drama, no guilt trips. Just say, hey, I appreciate who you are, but this isn't working for me. So, we can remain friends. So, what do you think? Which part of the contract do you think would save you the most headaches? Is it right at the beginning, the purpose of the trip, or is it the exit clause, a good way, your safe word to say, hey, this isn't working, and I appreciate you as a human being, but we're not going to be anything more than that. And how great would it be, rather than ghosting? And I will admit to it, I have ghosted people myself, and it's painful and unfair to them. So is that the element where you can say, hey, we talked about this, but I'm going to have to take that exit clause. I think that you're really great, but I don't see our relationship styles matching, and just moving forward like an adult. Okay, so here's the real deal though. Would you actually hand this to someone before a trip? Would you actually go through it, or do you think that he'd run away screaming? This is my real question, and I told you I adapted this with some Chat GPT help, and ChatGPT seems to think that he'd be all over this and think it was funny. but I don't know. I don't know if it would make somebody run for the hills. So I'd really love to know what you think. Do you think that this would work? That you could go through this and talk to them about how the date or the trip is going to go? Would it help to consolidate exactly what the plan is? So let me know. Let me know your thoughts. I am going to be posting this on my YouTube channel, so hopefully there will be some men that weigh in. All right, so let's tie this back into what really I've been getting at is the empowerment. That dating after 40 doesn't mean lowering your standards. It's again about protecting your peace and your energy. It is a valuable asset that you have, and it does not need to be given away lightly. So when you go back to this, when you have the travel agreement as a document, but you don't necessarily even need to do it as a document. This gives you some talking points when you are on a trip with someone for the first time, when you just start traveling with them. It gives you that chance to really engage with what they're wanting as well as what you're wanting, and make sure that you both know where you are and what the outcome is going to be. And so once you have those boundaries in place, you are free to do whatever you already have discussed, and there's no question, why isn't he texting me back? Well, it's outside of the scenario. Or if he is not keeping to the things in the agreement that you discussed, that's a major red flag, and you know to move on. We're not creating this because we're difficult. We need to do it because we earn the right to be clear about what we need. After 40, we're not in layover hell. We're in first class. I want you to realize that you are first class, and if you want a seat, you better respect the boarding rules. So thank you for joining me and sitting with me through this travel buddy information. Please, I'd love to hear your stories and how you might be able to use this or incorporate it into your dating life. If you haven't grabbed a copy of it yet, I will post it below. Use it, laugh about it, and hopefully it'll help you save some time and energy and pain on your next trip. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day.